This is Real Talk. Real Talk Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk. Real Talk. This is Real Talk. Real Talk Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk. Real Talk.
We're back for yet another episode, another edition of High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk. As always, I am your host, Jesse Jones. I want to give a great shout out to my boy, Rashawn Trust. Again, I appreciate you helping us out with the new mix. He is the vocals that you hear behind the beat of Mike Gibbs. My boy, Mike Gibbs, produced the beat. My boy, Rashawn Trust, the vocal master. He is the voice that you hear singing the new jingle. I want to give good shouts out to them. Good shout out to my boy, my brother, Russell Worthy, a.k.a. Rectacular, a.k.a. Cool Bear. That's my dude. He is our graphics design artist. He designs everything for High Praise Ministries. He, along with my queen, my wife. So welcome to yet another edition of Real Talk. Well, we got a special edition for y'all this week. If you were with us last week, you heard us do our sit-down interview with my queen, my co-host, my cohort, the executive producer of Real Talk. She is my wife, Falonda Jones. But this week, we have another special for you. This week, we're going to do a sit-down interview with yours truly. And since we're doing a sit-down interview with yours truly, I can't interview myself. So we have our co-host who's going to do a sit-down interview with me. I have no idea what any of these questions are. Y'all sent them in. She's got some of her own. I got no idea, so it's going to be fun. Y'all know I'm unfiltered, so it's going to be real fun. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our co-host. She is the beautiful, the vivacious, the gorgeous, the absolutely outstanding, looking good. She is the queen, Queen Falonda. Say hi to the people, baby.
Hi, family.
All right, it's in your hands.
All right. So tonight we're going to sit down and we're going to take a moment to jump in your ear for a minute and walk through the mind of the one and only, the Rev, Simply Great, Pastor Jesse Jones.
All right. She pulled out the nickname too. Oh, this going to be fun for real. This going to be fun for real. Here we go. Yes, sir.
All right. So I want to thank everyone who sent in your questions. And for those of you who did not get an opportunity to send in questions, well, maybe next time. But let's get started. So we're going to start with one of my questions. First of all,
cool.
We're going to jump back to little Jesse.
Okay.
What did you want to be when you grow up?
I only have ever wanted three things really in life. Four things really. To be when I grow up. If you move ministry aside, there's only three. Mm-hmm. One to play in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be a wrestler, professional wrestler. I still have a love for WWE, for WCW, ECW. I grew up on it. It helped shape and mold me as an individual. And believe it or not, it also helped shape and mold me as a preacher. Part of the confidence that I get in moving and flowing in the Word of God has everything to do with promos that I watched as a child coming up watching wrestling. My fearlessness comes from wrestling and football. My desire for the truth and for understanding comes from wanting to be a lawyer. And my ability to debate, too, comes from wanting to be a lawyer. So those were really, that I recall. Now, if you ask my mom, there's probably some other stuff, but from what I can recall, that's really all I ever wanted to be.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead. I decided that we're going to do this in 3 segments, so please stay tuned to all the segments because your question probably fell into one of these categories. So first of all, we're going to deal with the man, the minister.
Okay.
How did you feel when you first found out you were called to preach? Be honest, unfiltered.
Well, there are two halves to that. So the first half is when I originally first heard it, which was, I think I was 14 years old, maybe. Mm-hmm. This evangelist came to our church around, in this bumblebee robe with an S curl. I'll never forget it. I don't remember if he was an apostle or an evangelist, but his last name was Wade.
Okay.
He called me out after a praise break. Yes, we were doing a revival at the church around, which wasn't normal. Bishop Clark didn't do a whole lot of revivals. We had enough extra services as it was between Holy Convocation, Spring Workers Meeting. Y'all have heard me say this before. When I say I was in church all the time, I was in church all the time. But we had this special revival, and he pulled me out and looked at me. And first he said, "You're going to be," and I laugh at this because he was so off, but so on at the same time. He said, "You're going to be one of the number one evangelists by the time you're 16 years old." That did not happen. And then he said, "God has called you to preach, and you're going to preach for him." And I was like, okay, cool. And the only reason I was like, okay, cool, was because I'm the youngest of 3 total siblings in my house. So it's my oldest brother Joshua, my middle brother Melvin, and myself. And though I was the runt of the family, I was the one who was getting into everything, and I was trying to be the boss. So when I heard I was going to get this little bit of authority, bruh, every day I was going through, you're going to have to listen to me because I'm going to preach. I'm going to be a preacher. But then as the years went on, and I really started understanding what that was all about, I was like, no, I ain't preaching. So when it came again, second time around, would have been my junior year. Well, what would have been my junior year, so it would be my third year in college, but really was my junior year. It came heavy, and I was like, nah, I'm cool. Nah. You gonna preach? No, I'm not. I'm cool with that. Because by that time, I had seen all the hell preachers go through. Mm-hmm. And I was able now to really understand the hell that I saw that they went through as a child. Like, no, I ain't gonna do that. And I know me. I knew my personality then, which hasn't changed much. Mm-hmm. And I knew my mouth then. I said to God, straight up, I said, God, you don't want to call me. I'm going to send your people to hell. They're going to mess around with me and say the wrong thing, and they're going to go to hell. So maybe you probably should go ahead and select somebody else. So yeah, I was like, no, I'm not doing this mess. Not at all. Not going to happen. As we see, that didn't pan out well for me.
Unsuccessful.
Very unsuccessful.
Now let's see. So with that being said,
mm-hmm.
because you really still had a choice at the time. You did.
No, I didn't. No,
you did. You could have said no, but like, no, thank you.
Not good enough. No, not good enough.
Okay.
See, here's the truth of the matter, and some people call me crazy. There's very few people that I know of that really understand this. Mm-hmm. So a bunch of y'all who probably hear this will either not understand it or not agree with it, but it's the truth anyhow. I absolutely had no choice. I had less of a choice than Jonah. Like, I was fashioned and groomed for this from birth. Forget Jonah. I had less of a choice than Jesus. Like, I was fashioned and groomed for this for real. I was around my father at 5 years old, helping him wire the church, learning how to run the audio board. Him and my mother teaching me how to run the camera. 12 years old, 5 years old, I got saved because I was scared to go to hell. We saw this movie on a Friday night called The Burning Hell. It literally scared the hell out of me. I ran to the altar at 5 years old and said, I don't want to go to hell. What do I got to do to not go to hell? Had nothing to do with being saved. I did not want to go there. 12 years old, while all throughout those 7 years, still always being in church almost 24/7 seemed like. If I wasn't in school or at Russell's, I was in church. And hearing the word, going through the word. My mom always making sure that I was paying attention to the word. I had to give her a report on what happened at service, or what the preacher said, or what I learned in Sunday school, what I learned in Sunshine Band, or what I learned in Purity. Like it was a constant thing. And then at 12 years old, I got filled with the Holy Ghost. At 12 years old, I started teaching Sunday school. At 12 years old, when I got into the dance ministry, like I had no choice. All roads led to, Jesse, you preaching. You don't know anything else. And literally to this day, I tell people, for the most part, I don't know anything else. If I didn't preach, I don't know what I would do. Like, I know I want to retire from this someday because I've been doing this a lot longer than what my age should say that I've been doing this. But I don't know what I would do. Like, literally, this is all I know. I can do other stuff, but I'll never have the same kind of passion.
Okay.
I'll never have the same kind of, oh yeah, this is... I don't see that right now. So this is all, I had no choice. This was ingrained in me. You've been around me. I preach when I'm going to Wendy's. I preach when I'm just having a regular conversation.
Our poor waiters and waitresses.
At every restaurant. Sometimes I order my food and I feel like I'm preaching a message. Like it is just in me. So I really had no choice. This is all I knew.
So I guess that would be the answer why you decided you went into ministry, because you ain't had no choice.
Yeah, I went into this because I had no choice. And God left me with no other alternative. This was it. It was, hey, you're not playing football, so you can scratch that. And just to make sure you don't try to do nothing stupid to try to play, your knees are going to be bad. Like, most people don't know, my first year of college at OU, I tried to walk on. And in that first that first fall practice that they were holding for everybody who wanted to walk on, see who's going to make the cut, my knees gave out again. So I knew this wasn't going to work for me. I can't do it. I hate school, so being a lawyer was out. Like, nah. To be a lawyer, no. Because I wasn't going through another 8 years of school and then have to take a test to possibly be able to practice law. I knew I didn't have that kind of patience. I knew I didn't have that kind of tolerance. So that was out. Being that football was out, wrestling was absolutely out, especially in that time, because in the 90s, early 2000s, everybody was super big. And you ever see an old picture of Jesse? I'm fat now, but I was a toothpick then. Like, I graduated high school at like 130 pounds, soaking wet. So
it's like watching Snoop Dogg wrestle.
Nah, Snoop had more muscle mass than me. I was like a much taller Tommy Davidson from A Living Color.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Like it was horrible, but so all those things were out. So I was left with ministry. This was it. I was like, I'm closing off every door, so you got to come my way. So that's why I did that. I had no other choice.
Okay. So with that being said, why don't you attend seminary for a deeper knowledge of the Bible? I guess for the record, I guess we have to tell people that you did not attend seminary, nor did you attend a traditional Christian college.
I love that question because I get this question all the time, believe it or not. People who have found out, or it's not that I hide it, but I only deal with it when somebody asks me about it. I didn't go to seminary because seminary ain't for me.
Okay.
Like, so, and I have nothing against seminary, have nothing against those who went. But seminary is for those who want to know, like, the Greek and the Hebrew and the historicity of the Bible and all of those kinds of things. That's not the call that God's placed on my life. Like, I respect it. Like, Pastor Williams is one of those dudes. He knows the history of the Bible. He can give you the Greek and the Hebrew, and he knows how to look this up, and he can tell you when they sat at the table, and the table was like this for this reason, and they served this kind of thing because Jewish tradition was this. Bro, that ain't me. I hated history in school. I wasn't gonna stop hating history just because it was spiritual. So seminary wasn't for me, and the road that God took me, He placed me in kind of on the job training. I've had some dynamic men and women of God really hold my feet to the fire to make sure I knew the Word of God and to make sure I was equipped enough to walk in the call. Bishop Melvin Eugene Clark, I will never not mention his name when I talk about those people who had an impact on and teaching and training me. He is the pastor of the church in the round in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. He started this whole thing off because I grew up with him. Literally grew up with him. Hearing him teach and dissect the Word. Wanted to make me, if I'm going to speak, I'm going to do it like that. I want people to be able to understand everything I say. It's why I do the analogies I do when I preach and teach and talk or whatever. It's because I don't want any misconceptions of what I'm saying. I need 5-year-olds to get it, and I need 90-year-olds to get it. I need everybody to be able to understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
After Bishop Clark, there was Pastor Francine Childs at Mount Zion Baptist Church. She beat the dog out of me. Oh, she did, because she knew what I was called to do, knew I was running from it, and was not ever going to let me go. Oh my God, I loved her, and I love her, but she got on my nerves. Jesus. She would never let me come, but that's what she saw in me. And so she was always quizzing me and testing me, telling me to research this and telling me to look up that. And Jesse, you gonna pray. Bro, Jesse, you gonna do praise and worship. You gonna lead the dancing, and you gonna teach tonight, and you gonna do this, and you gonna do that. And I want to see this, and you gonna come with me. I'm called to preach over here, and I need you to come with me because I want you to have this experience. Like, she was never letting me go. And then she turned me over to another pit bull, this redheaded, crazy white woman, Apostle Marlene Dye. This woman of God saw what was in me, and like, she latched on and said, no, we're pulling this out. You will not run from who you are. You're going to do this. It's just what's going to happen. It's coming. And so walking with her and being trained with her and doing things I was so uncomfortable doing, like street ministry, which that's not my anointing, but I had to go through that, had to deal with that, had to learn that, how to deal with the homeless, how to deal with those who were less fortunate, how to understand them, how to hear them, how to accept them, how to love them, how to have compassion for them and still be ministering to them, how to be able to discern their type of spirits. Because if you've never done street ministry before, it's a whole different animal. There's different kinds of spirits you won't encounter in church or at your job, and you have to be able to discern, this is somebody who is here just for a meal. This is somebody who is here for God. And this is somebody, keep your eye on this Negro, because this Negro is going to try and mess everything up. You're going to have to kick them out eventually. It's just what's going to be. Going from her to Bishop Mel Griffin, who, let's just say Bishop Griffin challenged me in many ways. Many ways. He was one of the first to give me a for real platform. And he challenged and he pushed me. Bishop Romel Johnson, who's one of my mentors, he challenged and he pushed me and still pushes me. Bishop Chris Chamberlain, he challenges and he still pushes me. Down to Pastor Howard Williams, who was able to take everything that I had acquired from there and say, okay, now let's fine tune this. Let's refine this a little bit. I know you don't want to do seminary, but here's a little bit of seminary knowledge for you because you're going to need it for certain places that you go. So for the road that God took me, I went through a hard knock kind of, you're going to learn this a different way kind of. It wasn't a Greek, Hebrew, deep Bible study and understand what these things mean, but the type of preaching that God has me do doesn't call for that. So for those who do it, God bless you. That ain't my call, and that ain't going to be my call.
So out of all these great men and women of God, who would you say are your mentors for pastoring, or would you say you have a pastoral mentor right now?
Currently I have 3. I have my covering pastor, Pastor Howard Williams, the pastor of Victorious Life Christian Center in Columbus, Ohio. I have Bishop Romel Johnson. He is the pastor of Healing and Deliverance Holy Worship Center in Columbus, Ohio. And Bishop Chris Chamberlain, he is the pastor of Greater Love Ministries out in Philadelphia, Mississippi. The three of them I go to for advice. I go to for words of wisdom. They correct me on a very regular basis. I don't believe you can do this and not have somebody be able to check you. Like, you have to have somebody to answer to. You have to have somebody that can impart into you. You have to, I always believe this, that you have to have somebody who's going along the journey with you. Have somebody who's been where you're trying to get to, and somebody who's trying to go where you're at. Okay. So that way you're always feeding. You're feeding the path, or you're feeding the future. You're feeding your present and being fed by the past.
So would you say they're your accountability partners?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Pastor Williams says he's held me accountable on a number of different occasions about some stuff. Bishop Romel has cut me on a very regular basis about some stuff. Bishop Chamberlain has called me up, said, "Hey Jesse, we got to talk. This is what's going on. This is what I heard," and has cut me on a very regular basis. So yeah, they definitely keep me accountable. So for all y'all who think I just go off willy-nilly and say crazy stuff, no. There are things I am accountable for and accountable to, and they let me know whether or not they're pleased with what I said. They keep me in line.
So, what would you say to someone else in your position when seeking a mentor? What should they look for?
A mentor should be somebody who, one, at the very minimum, at the very bare minimum, has the knowledge to help you get to where you're trying to get to.
Okay.
Your mentor should not have an agenda. In other words, they want to see you succeed, and your success means nothing to them. Like, they don't gain anything if you win, but they lose everything if you fail.
Okay.
You want somebody who is stern. Like, I get that people want a lot of their feelings coddled and whatnot, and woo and all of that, but the truth is, you're not going to get where you really want to get to unless somebody pushes you. And pushing is never comfortable. Being stretched is never comfortable. And sometimes your will is going to take over and say, I'm not going to do it. And so you need somebody to kick you in the butt and say, yes, you are. You need this. You're going to go through this. You're going to deal with this to help you get. You need somebody like that. You need somebody who is invested. Like, your success means something so much to them that it feels like it's going to be their success, even though they don't benefit from it. Like, they want to see you succeed with everything that's in them. And lastly, at least for this portion of it anyway, because I got a list of stuff and I did a whole message on that as well. I believe that your mentor, since we're talking churchy, at least for the churchy folks, your mentor can't be your pastor. It cannot and should not be your pastor. Your pastor is probably the worst person to mentor you. They can be a sounding board. They can be a source of education and resource and understanding, but they cannot be your mentor. They have too much already on their plate to be your mentor, and they're too close. Real talk, most pastors will let stuff slide with their members because I know you. I've been around you. And some things I let slide because this is your personality, where somebody who don't know all that, who's being your mentor, is not going to let you slide with some of the bull that who your pastor is going to let you slide with. And so I never recommend. I know people do it all the time, and there's some people who've had great success with it. But for me, I would say your pastor should never be your mentor. They can be close, they can be a counselor, they can be a lot of things. But your direct mentor, no. Now, if it comes to, just for those who might ask this question, if it comes to your mentor says one thing and your pastor says another, go with your pastor because they're responsible for your soul. But in terms of your growth, your pastor should not be your mentor.
Okay.
I'm gonna catch a whole lot of flack for that one.
You probably are. Knowing what you knew in the beginning, what you've experienced since then, and now in the thick of it, in the peak, if you will, almost at the peak of your ministry life.
Trying to say I'm old? I'm trying to say?
Yeah. At what, if any, point in your life were you the closest to walking away from ministry? Have you gotten there?
I've had that a couple times. Like a bunch of times actually. The last big one, because I've had some even within the last year, but the last big one would have been, want to say 3 years ago. And my good friend, the late Pastor Cedric Poindexter, he brought his church to Next Level Service. And they took over the service. I preached, but they took over the service. And there was a praise and a worship that was going on. And I stood in the corner, I couldn't even worship. And I just looked, and God spoke to me and said, this is what's going to happen. Keep holding on. Because what people didn't know, and my wife at the time didn't know, you know at the time, I was going to be done at the end of the month. I was going to shut it down because I was tired. I was worn out. I was like, this isn't working. I'm doing something wrong. I need to go back to the drawing board. Maybe I need to sit my black behind down, and because maybe I moved ahead of God and just stop so that I can get this thing right. I was going to walk away from it. And God knew if I put it down, I wasn't picking that back up. Not at all. So that's the biggest time. A couple times within this last year as well. It just gets hard. Like, I don't think people really understand, if you've never done it, people really understand the weight a pastor goes through. And more importantly, the weight a person goes through, not even just a pastor, but the weight a person goes through trying to build something from the ground up. And this is where some folk are probably going to take some issue with me, but it's the truth anyhow. Trying to build something from the ground up with virtually no support. And really, I wouldn't even say virtually no support. I would say no support. Like, it's real hard towing that plow, trying to build, and you look to people who you thought would help, or you thought would be there for you. Nope. You try to call, they're not returning calls. You text, no return text. You look for the support, not there. It is difficult. It is very, I understand to a degree what Jonah felt like, what Noah felt like building the ark. He had him, at least he had his sons. I believe his sons helped some. But it was him building the ark for 400 years while everybody laughed at him. Ha ha ha, what's rain? It's gonna rain? No. He had neighbors, bro. He had friends in the community that he knew they weren't gonna help because they didn't see the vision. I can get an understanding of that. Because but being in that makes a person want to say, I'm done. It's not worth it. Contrary to popular belief, it does not feel worth it while you're in the thick of it. Until you start to see some daylight, it never feels worth it.
So on the flip side of that, what has been, like I referred to late last, what has been your sunshine in the middle of it?
Real talk?
Not there yet?
I haven't had any. Not that I would call. There have been some moments that, have been uplifting for people. And this might sound arrogant, and I don't mean it to, but those moments I expected. So it's not like it was something that was like, oh yeah, like the young adult conference we used to do. That Real Talk didn't do anything for me. I love the worship experience there. I love the fact that people got blessed. Did absolutely nothing for me. The dance conferences did nothing for me. Bless the folk, nothing for me. I expected God to move in those moments. Nothing for me. I haven't seen it yet. So my sole motivation has simply been, God, I want to do your will. So this is what you got for me. Let's keep it going till you say stop.
Okay. What is the biggest hit you've taken since being called to the ministry, and what lesson did you learn from it?
God almighty. I don't know what I would consider to be my biggest hit. Like, it's all been a hit for me. it's just been a nonstop fight with Mike Tyson, and I'm Jaleel White. Like, it is, man. Some issues we've had have been hits. Not really having the family support I thought I would have has been a hit. The week after we opened, and no one showing after we had a packed house for our first service, was a hit. People who I knew should have been at High Praise Ministries while we were in Columbus, especially while we were in Columbus, refusing to come was a hit. Losing the first building, that was a hit. Even though it wasn't our fault, still was a hit. Losing Jesse as our minister of music, I felt like we may have had some momentum now, because now we at least have music. That was a hit. Like, it's just been left and right since being down here. We're in our 4th location in a year. That's a hit, because it breeds an air of instability, and I despise that. No, 5th location had the
Women's Center.
The Women's Center had
Riverdale.
Before the Women's Center, I had the library, which is down in Douglasville, which was where the first couple of services were at. Then the Women's Center, then location in Riverdale. Then we were here at the house. Now we're in Conyers, so the 5th location in
Norcross.
Norcross, and 5th location in a year. That breeds an air of instability. And so those are all blows to not only the ego, but just blows in general, because it makes it harder to churn this thing to grow. And I know that God, for all this, well, God will send him if he called you. Yeah, he will, but still, until they're coming, you don't know if God is sending them or not.
Right.
And that's a struggle. And it's a struggle no one prepared me for. No one. Like, I knew I'm a hard person anyway to deal with and be under. Knew that anyway. But to not have anyone in-house. And for those of y'all who are Soundbite members, I'm not negating y'all, but there's just something different to having them in-house. Yeah, all those are blows. So all equal blows. Hurt. Still pressing through it.
Okay. I appreciate your transparency about all this. I think I think when we don't talk about our experiences, that we kind of, like we do Christianity, a disservice when we don't talk about them in a holistic experience. if we don't show the good and the bad. Like if we sell this as, okay, so now you're going to get saved and now you're just going to be blessed for the rest of your life and nothing bad is ever going to happen to you. Then we not only do ourselves a disservice or the person who is now saved a disservice, we also do God a disservice, because none of that is biblical. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be peaches and cream. It's not peaches and cream for our leadership. And I think when people talk about pray for the leaders, people are uninformed or they don't care enough because they don't know what's going on behind the doors. I think especially when you see like the mega church preachers and the houses and the cars and stuff, and they equate that to they should be happy because they have stuff. Mm-hmm. But they don't think about the struggles and for the large number of suicide and mental health issues that happens with the leaders of the church, because nobody's talking about that.
But the truth is as a leader, who do you talk to? So let's be real for a second. In the church community, especially in the black community of church, we're too busy fighting for each other's members. Mm-hmm. So if I confide in another pastor, mm-hmm. what I'm dealing with, how I'm feeling, mm-hmm. I got to now worry about him using that against me to steal the people that God has placed under me. And I know the Bible will say, well, that's not your folk anyway. That's God's folk. That's bull. No, these are my people. Mm-hmm. God has given me watch care over them, which means I'm responsible for them.
Like your children?
Like your children. They are. I have an obligation to be responsible for them. So yes, I take ownership and possession of them, knowing that God can do with them what He wants to do with them. Mm. But when you come in and snake them, that's not God. Mm. That's you. Mm. And so now I have to watch out for that, because folk ain't gonna like this, but it's true. Church folk love new. Mm. They love new built. Let me say it that way. They don't like new and they have to build, but they like new built. Mm-hmm. So if somebody comes in and preaches dynamically, because I've never heard that person before, they're the best thing I've ever heard. Mm-hmm. Or because they're not my normal, they're the best thing I've ever heard. Oh, I wonder what it's like over there, because every time he come over here, woo, God, they just be preaching. Bishop Griffin taught me that. Mm-hmm. He would always say to me, he said, Jesse, when I go away, I can preach. When I'm home, I have to teach. Mm. I'm responsible for for the people God's given me. I'm responsible for them learning. Mm-hmm. When I go out, it's not my job that they're learning. It's the pastor their's job. Mm. So I have a little more freedom to preach and to hoop and to do all that stuff. Mm. Well, it's all that extra that, oh my God, he preaching. And they start coming to your church now because you didn't preach. And so it's always this competitive kind of environment that black pastors have facilitated, which is our fault, but church members have not squashed either, because they disloyal too. Mm-hmm. That makes it hard for pastors to confide in other pastors. Mm-hmm. You can't confide in other members because they can only get so familiar with you. Mm-hmm. Because
kind of like you don't discuss my personal preference. You don't discuss the marriage issues between spouses with your children.
Absolutely, because it puts a horrible expectation in their eyes, and also can taint one party or the other in their eyes. If I, as a pastor, put too much out there for the people, how are they going to be able to respect me as a pastor? Right. Especially because they'll never understand what they're not going through. So that's out the window. So then some would say, oh, well, do counseling, which I am an advocate of. The problem with doing counseling is when you going to find the time. Even full-time pastors who don't work a regular 9-to-5 job, when you going to find the time between hospital visits and jail visits and dealing with your own family, preparing for messages and preparing for Bible studies? When you going to find the time to sit down and say, okay, so let's talk about my depression? When you going to find the time to do that? And someone say, oh, well, make the time. Okay, well, cool. You add 2 or 3 more hours to a day, and that time can be made. But until then, it's still only 24 hours in a day. And it's hard. Those things become hard or the pastor to be able to do, even if they have help. So who do you confide in? Because you can't trust the, your cohorts, your colleagues. You can't talk to the people. You don't have time for counseling. Who do you talk to? So it becomes a hard thing that people who've never gone through this, or have at the very least have never seen this up close, will never know.
With all of this being said, I think it would be beneficial to people, even though they can actually read it on the website, www.highpraiseministries.com.
Go ahead and market it. Go ahead and market it.
What, as God has given it to you, what is High Praise Ministries? And why High Praise Ministries above what the vision that God has given you above everything else? What sets you apart?
High Praise Ministries. So why High Praise Ministries? Let's start with that.
What is High Praise Ministries?
It's the name that God gave me for this ministry. And what it is God gave me revelation in 1999. Showed me how in the body of Christ we always talk about the outer courts, the inner courts, the holy of holies. And that's where praise and worship takes place. Praise takes place in the outer courts because that's where everybody can do. Your submission takes place in the inner courts because that's when you wash your hands with the sacrifice. And the holies of holies, that's where your worship takes place because that's that place of intimacy between you and God. And the way I used to describe it would be, that's the bedroom. So you have your yard, inside of your house, bedroom. Well, God began to show me. He said, so when you get in the bedroom, some things take place in the bedroom. Some intimacy takes place in the bedroom. And if you do it right, some hollering takes place in the bedroom. And so what God showed me, he said, with that, let me help you understand that there is a level above your worship that I look for. And I call that the high praise. That's where I want my people to get to. Where they're not just in worship where I'm the one communicating with them and they're giving me their adoration. But I want that high praise, that thing that I can only get from them, where now we have become one. That's what I want my people to get to. So he told me to call it High Praise Ministries because he always wants me to have the people of God strive for deeper, strive for greater, strive for more. I talk about relationship all the time, of your relationship to God, your relationship with Christ, all the time within High Praise Ministries, because the greater we deepen and strengthen our relationship to Jesus, the greater chance we'll be able to get of getting that high praise. The purpose of High Praise Ministries is we're a training and teaching ground. When I was in college, my first day at Mount Zion Baptist Church, I'll never forget it. It was a Bible study Friday night. I'm sitting in the pews, and the praise and worship team, they lost all the songs. They said, we've run out of songs. And Doc Childs wasn't there yet, so anybody got a song? 'Cause we got no more songs. Come from a church that does praise and worship and has all kinds of songs. I have hymns for days. I got songs, gospel songs for days. That's all I grew up on. So I got one and I began to sing. And I don't remember what the song is now that I sang. And as I'm singing, Doc Childs walked right past me and smiled. I don't know who this crazy black woman was with her African attire on, and she had the gold crown. Because that's Doc Childs. You know Doc Childs. That's Doc Childs. So she came up, she taught, and she asked to see me after service just before choir rehearsal started. And she said, I want you to be my new praise and worship leader. I have a praise and worship experience, not as a leader. I can sing songs. I know experience as a praise and worship leader. 2 months later, I was also over the dance ministry. I have no experience being the overseer of a dance ministry. So God began to speak to me. He said, this is what happens to my people all the time. They're put in positions where they are not trained to do so. They're trained to preach the gospel, but they're not trained in other areas of ministry. So at High Praise Ministries, I want to be able to train ministers and inspire ministers to do what God has called them to do. Help them understand their purpose and walk therein. That's the totality of High Praise Ministries. What sets us apart is that's our function and our goal. I don't believe I'll have members that have been in High Praise Ministries for 30 years. It's just not who we are. We're called to help you find your purpose, walk in, and we send you behind out. Go do what God has called you to do. There's some place in the vineyard that you can help. Now go do it. That's High Praise Ministries.
That's awesome. So the last question in this segment, I was thinking about one of my new favorite shows, Amsterdam. So my question would be for you, as your friends, as your family members, as just voyeurs into this, because technically we're now voyeurs leaking into your mind right now. How can we help as far as the ministry go? What can we do? How can we help?
That's a good question. At the moment, I don't really know, because I'm so used to at this point doing it on my own. Really, for starters, help get the word out.
Okay.
The messages, if you got a message that has really touched you, share it on your Facebook, share it on your Twitter, your Instagram, whatever. If the word that God gives means anything to you from this place, from this vessel, let other people know. Still the greatest marketing tool any business, any organization has is word of mouth. Look at the battle between Popeyes chicken sandwich and
Popeyes.
Yeah. Like, I don't remember seeing a commercial for Chick-fil-A's chicken sandwich.
No.
I'm not Chick-fil-A, I mean Popeyes chicken sandwich. But dude, everybody and their mama's talking about it now. And everybody and their mama is battling back and forth as to who's got the better chicken sandwich. But that's because somebody talked about it. For as many people that view High Praise Ministries and tell me that the word has touched them, not a whole lot of people view it, or not a whole lot of people share it. And the other thing that I know helps, and I hate saying it because it's not something I'm comfortable with, finance. Like, you and me, we're doing all this basically on our own shoulders. Everything's coming out of our pockets. The rent for the building, any promotional material we use or whatever, it's coming out of our pockets, and that puts a strain. So as God leads, sow seed. But if you can't sow seed, you can share at least the word of mouth. An uptick in that, I believe, can help. I was just reading on Facebook before we started the broadcast, and I know I got to be quick because I'm looking at the time now. And we winding down. My boy Jay Jordan is doing phenomenal things in the city. He's always done phenomenal things. He's a wonderful vessel. But somebody was bragging about him, and I decided to read it because Jay's my boy. And they were bragging about him because somebody sent them a message of his in their Facebook inbox. And once they read it, they knew that this was a great man of God, and they had to do whatever they could to help him out. He's going to Chicago in a few weeks, I believe it is, to go preach for that person.
That's awesome.
And that person they never really had met. It was just that message alone that started everything. Getting the word out jumpstarts everything.
All right. Well, now you know, as my personal life motto is, now that you know better, you are now required to do better. So you want to make Jesse's life easier. And by making Jesse's life easier, you make my life easier. Share the word, sow a seed. Simple as that. Do both or pick one. We prefer you do both. That's just me. I could say that. I'm the wifey. So now we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to dive a little further, and we're going to take this a little bit lighter. We got all the little ministry questions out the way, so now we get to really jump in your ear and walk through your mind.
Be afraid. Be very
after this
afraid.
break.
The Real Talk podcast is brought to you by Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or your computer. Its creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere, from Spotify to Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts, and many, many more. You can easily make your money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. All you have to do is download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
And we're back. And now it's time to get a little bit deeper with our special interviewee tonight, pastor, husband, GJ. I almost said it.
Mm-hmm.
GJ at Jesse Jones.
Well, you can't call me a GJ without calling me a father. I mean, I gotta be a
I'm
father
sorry.
first. See, Ashley,
Father.
see how she does you?
See, and this, she'll never hear this. She don't listen. Ha, ha, ha. No, I'm sorry, Ashley. We love you. We have not forsaken you completely for Layla.
Well, at least I haven't, because you see, I mentioned you.
All right, so let's dive a little bit further into who is Jesse. Now, before you mention a love for wrestling and a love for football, so I found this question interesting. Would you, if you weren't in ministry, would you either be wrestling or football? And would you rather make a winning play in the NFC Championship game to eliminate the Giants, or beat your least favorite wrestler in an intense Hell in a Cell for the WWE Championship?
Man,
Would you rather?
That's a good question. I'm gonna take this in parts, only because to me, it's, even though it's one question, it's kind of two different questions.
Okay.
I would, if I had the choice, I'd rather play football.
Okay.
Always loved football. Like, yeah. Wrestling was there first. Football made the biggest impact.
Okay.
In terms of my psyche, not in terms of my personality. Wrestling developed my personality, but man, football has always been phenomenal. So I would and they pay better, and the insurance is better, and the schedule is better. So I would rather play football. As much as I hate the Giants, because I'm a Cowboys fan, all day long, die hard, don't care what you got to say about it. 5 rings, we coming for that 6. It's gonna happen. As much as I hate
your lifetime.
Oh, absolutely.
Sorry.
Absolutely. I know you as a Chicago Bears fan not talking about in somebody's lifetime winning another championship. Can y'all win one before our daughter hits 30? How about before our granddaughter hits 30? How about that? Let's talk about that. Because we gonna throw shade out there. I despise the Giants, like, with everything in me. The Giants are a horrible piece of trash franchise, but horrible piece of trash players, Eli Manning. I despise the Giants, but as much as I would hate to be in a Hell in a Cell match, because they're painful, winning the WWE Championship trumps winning the NFC Championship. It'd have been a harder battle if you said Super Bowl.
Oh, okay.
But to win the WWE Championship, man, the pinnacle. Like, that's. I'm right up there with my favorite wrestler of all time, Ric Flair. Absolutely. Would rather play football. Love football. But if we're talking about what am I going? If I got one shot to win a championship in one, wrestling all day long. It sticks longer.
Okay.
Like, people remember only if you are part of an epic franchise in the NFL. Your Green Bay Packers, your Dallas Cowboys, your Pittsburgh Steelers, and your New England Patriots. It means something, winning the Super Bowl. If you win one for the very, very first time, if Cleveland Browns ever win one, which they won't, it would mean something. Other than that, it doesn't really mean anything.
Gotcha.
Like in the annals of time, you're just another number. You're just another notch. But to win one WWE championship, you're slated for life. People will always refer to you, as a former WWE champion. They will not always refer to you as a former Super Bowl winner. So, championship.
Gotcha. With that being said in mind, with you being pastor, hubby, father. See, I remember GJ, counselor. Was you wearing so many hats? What do you do to de-stress?
I don't.
Okay.
I have no de-stressors.
What do you like? What is your favorite thing to do besides ministry then?
I just go. Like, Monday Night Raw, Mondays, every Monday, 8 to 11. That's my veg time. It's not so much de-stress. It's just so that I can be normal. I'm still stressed as all get out. But it's at least kind of gives me an equilibrium of, okay, I'm not doing this 24/7. The crazy part is over the last few years, even while I'm watching Raw, I'm still thinking about all the other stuff. So I just don't de-stress. I'm always going. If I'm sleeping, I'm going. If I'm texting, I'm going. If I'm driving to work, it's constant. It never stops. I don't think I have truly de-stressed in about 14 years.
Wow.
It's been a long, long while. People will think I'm crazy and think I'm exaggerating, but I'm really not. You see how I am. I just don't stop. And it's not even so much that I try to not stop. I just don't stop. It never stops. I recognize people say, well, that's unhealthy. Yeah, well, if I had a way to turn it off, I probably would. But I don't have a way to turn it off. It just does. Even while this podcast is going, my mind is thinking about Saturday's message. Like, I've already flashed past 3 different scriptures that I'm going to have to look up and see if they fit into the message. Like, it is nonstop. I'm also on next Saturday in this series that we're doing. Like, it just doesn't stop. So, de-stress? I don't know what that means.
Okay, so we're about to get real graphic for a moment here. We're about to be real adult and be really real. So, hold on. Clutch your pearls. So we're in the middle of stuff. You still thinking about messages?
Yep. I've gotten a couple messages.
And we're in the middle of having sex?
Sure have.
So you thinking about pulling my hair and writing messages at the same time?
It's happened.
Wow. I don't know if to be insulted or admire your due diligence. Because I definitely, except for saying Jesus, am not thinking about messages.
It's not even diligence. Like I said, it just doesn't stop. It doesn't turn off. It's not even a spirit of the prophet, a subject to the prophet type of crap that people. I know. I feel some of y'all listening in my spirit, even though we're recording this and y'all gonna listen to it after this is done. I just know how some of y'all church folk are. It's not a case of the spirit of the prophet, a subject to the prophet. It just doesn't stop. It just don't. I'm constantly thinking about what can I do to do your will better, God. What can I do to help your people? What can I do? What message can I bring? What can I say? How can I pray? What can I do that this is better? Sometimes it's even if it's just this one person. Okay, this person needs some help. Okay, God help them. What can I say? What can I do? How can I help my wife grow? It's always something. Whether it's I'm trying to grow the ministry, trying to help our family, trying to get us in a better position, financially and emotionally and physically and in a better spot and all that other stuff. It's never stopped. It has never stopped. It never stops. And you've seen the results of it lately. That I've been way more tired than I probably have ever been in my life because it's just heavy and it never stops. It just doesn't. So I don't know what distress is. I don't. I should. But I don't. I tell people all the time, please don't be like me. Don't ever in your life say you want to be like me. Don't look up to me. Don't be like me. This isn't the way to do it. But it's all I got. Just don't stop.
So I'm gonna skip some of the other questions I had and jump down to this one.
Mm-hmm.
If basically get a spiritual hall pass, if you didn't have to take your office or walk into consideration, what have you abstained from? Would you partake of doing? No consequences. If you could, what would you do?
There's nothing that I can think of. It's. I knew you were gonna say that.
I'm
sad.
sorry.
I knew you were gonna say that, but it's true. Like here's the reality. For me, I don't not do because of the walk, because of what I'm called to. The things I don't do because I love Christ. If some of these things, if they weren't a sin, I still wouldn't do them. 90% of the stuff ain't in me to do. I'm not a saint by any way, stretch of the imagination. I am not a perfect dude. But like I said earlier, when you've been programmed and fashioned for this, this is really all you know. There's aspects and walks of secular life I only know because I've heard people talk about it. I don't know it. So it's not even that you would do this or wouldn't do this. Most of the time I wouldn't even know. Like, we take a break every July, except for this past July. Since we've started High Praise Ministry, we take a break every July. What do? I have a chance to do something on a Sunday or on a Saturday. Well, I'll do nothing. Cause I don't know other than go to movies or go out to eat. How many things have you heard me come up with?
You got a point.
Because it's just stuff I just don't know. I'm open to experience if I can experience it, but I just don't know it. This is what I know. This is it. This is who I is. So I understand the point of the question and understand the mentality behind the question. But I'm the wrong dude to ask that question to. Like, bro, I got nothing. Because there's nothing that I think about that is like, if I wasn't a pastor, I would just, would you cuss folk out? I've cussed folk out while I've been a pastor. So, so that ain't stopping me. Would you fight for? Man, I'd punch somebody in the face right now if they got what. So it's none of those small things. I don't drink not because of salvation, but the smell of alcohol makes me nauseous. I wouldn't. It's just not these things. I got nothing. I truly have nothing. So sorry, y'all. I know that whoever asked that question, I know it's a good one. The wrong one to ask that one too.
I probably should have caught you when you was younger, even though that would have been. I would have went to jail.
You would have never been able to handle me when I was younger.
I probably could have badly influenced you with some things.
No,
not even a little bit.
You are nowhere near by far the quote unquote, for lack of a better way to put it, worst person I've ever known and I've ever been around, and they didn't. I've known some people to do some stuff and have asked me. It's just not in me to do. It's not even it's not even a thing of I don't want to do because I'm saved. It's just not in me. I was never. I grew up in church basically 24/7. So outside stuff was never anything in my consciousness. Like, I watch television, I watch movies, love comedy. My father was a huge comedy fan as well. But to go do those things was never in my conscience to do, because it was never anything in my household that was a speech. It was never, if you came to my house as my friends, you weren't You weren't allowed to talk about that type of stuff and deal with the type of stuff. So I really never really had it holistically around me. 90% of the time of my life, if I wasn't at a church, wasn't at a home, and later on in my life wasn't at a football practice, I was at Russell's house. Russell lived with his grandma, and God bless her soul, Sister West. She was the same. Being in her house was like being in my house. You weren't doing all this crazy stuff, saying all this crazy. I just wasn't that dude. So, yeah, got nothing.
I guess with that being said, thinking about how you grew up, if you could go back and change one thing that has happened in your life, what would it be? And nothing is not an answer.
There's actually two.
Okay.
I would change losing my virginity only because of the way that it happened. No, let me rephrase that because it makes it sound like I was molested or something like that, and that's not the case. I was talked into it, but
was not the most pleasurable experience.
It wasn't even that. It just
wasn't worth it.
For my mind, no. Not for the hell I put myself through afterwards. No. No, it just wasn't worth it. And I would have rather have been able to abstain until I got married. That would have been wonderful. I'm considering who I married, but that's a whole story that long. The other thing I would have changed would have been my god brother, John McGee. It is still, depending on who you talk to, up for debate as to whether or not he committed suicide or not. But a week before he did it, he reached out to me when I was a freshman in college on Christmas break, just before going back to school. He wanted to see me and talk to me, and I just couldn't make the time. I didn't have the time. Mom had me doing some stuff, had to do some stuff at the church, just really didn't have the time. I told him, hey, I'm going to hit you up as soon as I get back to school, because I know, especially that first day, I had the whole day. We can talk, chat, whatever you want to do. Because John was my boy, man. That, bruh, man, he was good people and had a lot of issues, but he and I would always talk about it. We would always work it. I was kind of a sounding board, and I wasn't able to be there. And then I get back to school, and I find out it's dead. So I would change my availability at that point in time to make sure I could be there for him. Because maybe, just maybe, if I had been there to help him talk through it, he wouldn't have committed suicide. I can't guarantee that. So that kind of weight doesn't sit on me like it used to. But I still wish I could have been there for him. So those two things would probably be the things I would change.
Speaking of losing your virginity and being married, taking both marriages into consideration, what are 3 lessons that marriage has taught you?
Listen, don't always try to help. Stand your ground when you need to. And grace and patience are a wonderful thing. As impatient as I still am, grace and patience are a wonderful thing.
Okay. So speaking of being married, I'm going to allow this question in. I know who this question came from. I'm going to ask it anyway. What is the most annoying thing that Falonda does?
She's always late. Always late. I don't have to think about that. You could have asked me that in my sleep, and I would wake up telling you she's always late. And the trick of lying to you and trying to tell you is at a different time than what it is, it don't work. It just doesn't work. Always late. We are the proprietors of High Praise Ministries, and we're just getting to service in time enough maybe to start on time. When y'all 90% of the time when y'all see me starting at like 5 after or whatever, it's the queen.
It ain't always. Sometimes it's the pee break before. Whatever.
Who taking the pee break?
You!
I can stand up and go. But wait, the pee break right before we go on always happens anyway. We could have been there way beforehand so that the pee break would have taken place and we'd have been fine to start on time.
This may be inappropriate for some of y'all.
They grown, they pee too.
You be alright.
They pee too. But yeah, late. I have a despisal of lateness, and it's my mother's fault. I used to hear her. I won't get too deep into her stories as to what was going on at the time, but we'd be walking to church, and she didn't think I would hear her muttering under her breath about how pissed off she is because we got to be late to church. Yeah. And so being on time in life, not just for church stuff, but in life, has been a staple for me. I do my best to be on time. And then I heard that cliche, and it changed my life. To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late. To be late is to be missed. And that thing took me not wanting to be late to a whole nother level. You ever want to piss me off, be late. We have done our conferences, and people who were supposed to be there at a certain time weren't there. And I'm pacing back and forth because I'm pissed because they ain't there, and she got to calm me down. I despise lateness, but my wife is the epitome of lateness. I love her.
I was born late. I came into this world late. I'm late the 99% of the time. Matter of fact, for those of you who get the pleasure of loving me and knowing me until the end of my life, you will be at my funeral before my remains get there. Because somehow, I guarantee this, and I kid you not, my remains will be late showing up because I plan on being cremated. My remains will be late to the service. So just suck it up. Just know that this is my last act of Falondaism.
This is a recorded podcast, and we late. My preference was always, for those of y'all who started with me the very first episode, y'all know I was saying, hey, we're going to have this thing drop every Thursday. Since my queen has been the co-host, we ain't dropped on a Thursday yet.
Oh, that ain't always my fault.
Late. I'm just saying.
Always my fault. Oh my God, it's late now.
Uh-huh. See?
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Moving right along. Coming into this second marriage and your last one.
Mm-hmm.
How
body
is
bag
it?
love. Body bag love.
Body bag love. How has it really been for you becoming a father out of the blue? And not only now being a father, but how's it been being a grandfather?
Technically, I wasn't a father out of the blue because she was there when I got to you.
I mean, but
So.
it wasn't like you like went into like, in my next relationship, I'm going to meet someone who has a child. I just so happen to have a child. A teenager.
Being a father has been interesting. Ashley tries my patience, but I love her. I really, if you hear this, Ashley, please know I love you with everything in me. But you also work my last nerve. It's been interesting because I've never known an individual to work my nerves like Ashley does, and I still like them. Normally, you work my nerves like that, I don't be around you because I don't like to deal with that kind of stress. But Ashley has this way of working my nerves, and then out of the blue, without her trying to, she does something that sounds just like me, or that is like the epitome of a Jesseism, and that shows me she's listening. Mm-hmm. And it's like all of my "you just ticked me off" has just gone. Like, she just has that wonderful way of doing it. It has been a privilege to watch her grow and become the woman she's becoming. Like, it's been wonderful. It's been annoying and irritating, but it's been wonderful because I'm watching her grow and seeing that I have had even a speck of an influence in her life, that to help her become the woman she's becoming. It fills me with godly pride. It's a wonderful thing. When she finally reaches her purpose and fulfills this thing that God is calling her to, y'all better watch out, because she gonna be something. This woman is wonderful. So it's been a ride. It's been a ride. Being a GJ really hasn't been any different, and the sad truth of it is because I have not had the time to be able to spend with Layla like I would have loved to. While Ashley was pregnant, I was here trying to get settled in Georgia. Mm-hmm. I was there for the birth, and then had to come back down here to get settled for Georgia. Mm-hmm. And 6 months passed almost before I got to see her again. She got to hear me because you made sure she heard the messages, but she didn't get to see me, or I didn't get to see her. And now that we're here and Ashley has decided to stay in Ohio, it's different because I know I could influence her life, but there's so much distance. So I am, and this is going to sound so horrible, don't take it personal. It's not meant to be that way, but I'm a real raw person, and I promised the people I would always be transparent. Mm. Kind of a grandfather in name only. Mm. Like, I'm a grandfather because my daughter has a child, but not because I'm doing the things that a grandfather would do. Mm. So it really hasn't done anything different other than knowing that there's this wonderful little person who is absolutely adorable, is in this world, and bears a portion of my spiritual DNA. Did I miss a part of the, I feel like I missed a part of the question. Okay.
And what about the part of you that, how did you feel that Ashley wanted to name Layla after you?
It touched me. Like, really it did. Because I didn't expect it. Cause especially at the time, because Ashley was pissed at me. She was real pissed at me. Because I told her the truth, and she didn't like me telling her the truth. Like most of y'all don't like me telling you the truth. And so I didn't think that was going to be the case. And so when I found out, it touched me because it let me know that as much as she irritates me and I irritate her, we have the same thought process. Mm-hmm. We still love each other. Mm-hmm. And that's true family. And that she wanted Layla to be able to have a constant piece of who her father was. Mm-hmm. And that meant a lot. Really, really did. And she knows it just why she did. She tried to make me cry, but she didn't catch me. She didn't catch me.
So technically, Ashley gave, because Layla's, for those who don't know, Layla is Layla Eileen Wright Jones. And she wanted to make sure that you had a namesake.
Yes.
Because we biologically don't have children together.
Yes.
So that's my little Oprah moment. We're gonna lighten the mood a little bit more. We're gonna go 2 more questions. I'll do 2 more, and then we're gonna take another little break, get into our Real Talk Banter. What's your thing about birthdays, holidays, and gifts? For those who don't know, what's your thing with that? Explain to the people, get this all out at one time, and then people can't bring this back up again.
This still gonna do it because everybody in my life has done it. Whoever asked that question knows about it, which means they've heard the explanation behind it, which means they know.
But you are a growing, changing person, and
I ain't changing that much.
You've slightly evolved.
No, I haven't.
Oh goodness.
I've just learned to deal with some things.
Okay.
Doesn't mean I like them, but I've learned to deal with them. So, I have 5 things that are guaranteed to piss me off. In college, they were unaffectionately referred to as my 5-fold pet peeves. And they are as follows. I hate gifts. Getting gifts. I give them. Love to give them. Hate getting them. People who have no sense try to call that hypocritical, and it's not. Because nobody ever tells me they don't want a gift from me. But I hate gifts. I hate compliments. I hate people telling me thank you. I hate people saying please. And I hate people saying sorry. Those 5 things are guaranteed to piss me off. Birthdays, which is a side thing that people include in it. I don't hate birthdays. Let me start with that one because that was the easiest one. I just don't feel the need to celebrate the birthday because I didn't do nothing to get here. I feel like celebrations are supposed to be a part of an accomplishment. I didn't accomplish anything by shooting out my mama's vagina. I didn't. Out of her birth canal, out of her womb, whatever you want to call it, I didn't accomplish nothing by doing that. She did all the work. I had nothing to do with my mom and my daddy getting together 9 months prior or 10 months prior and having sex. And my dad said, shh, it had nothing to do with that. It had nothing to do with that at all. I had nothing to do with the fact that I made it another year of life. That was all God. So the celebration should either go to God or go to my mom and my daddy. I had nothing to do with that. So I don't really have, I don't have this big thing with my birthday. Like people love with their birthdays because it's another day for me. I did nothing that warrants a celebration in that regard. I hate sorries because I would rather you show me than tell me. Apologies are a dime a dozen. We have watered down sorry. So don't tell me you're sorry. Just show me. It's much easier. It's much better. Much less hassle. And it keeps you from having to lie to me because half of the time you ain't sorry no way.
Just sorry you got caught.
Basically. I hate thank yous because I don't deal with ungrateful people. If I'm dealing with you and I'm led to do something for you, you're grateful. And if you ain't grateful, don't lie and say you are. Mm-hmm. I'm led to do it. I do for people as I'm led to do. I don't do it for your thank you. I don't do it for your gratitude or nothing like that. Bible says in everything give thanks, but doesn't say in everything give thanks to Jesse. Give thanks to God and call it a day. I despise please because please is a way to beg me. If you ever watch little kids and they ask you something and they say please and you still say no, immediately out of the mouth is, but I said please, can I have this cookie please? No. But I said please. Please is not a way to get something from me. It's a way to beg me. I don't like being begged. My answer is not going to change whether you say please or not. So just ask the question. Now to the ones that people really don't understand. I despise gifts. I'm uncomfortable receiving gifts for a variety of reasons that we don't have enough time in this podcast to go into. I'm just uncomfortable receiving gifts. Never have been comfortable receiving them. Don't like receiving them. They make me cringe when I have to take them. Just don't like receiving gifts. It is a whole long thing behind it. Just don't like getting them. I've learned that for certain people, I have to take them at certain times, and I do. But I despise it because if you could literally see into me when a gift is given to me, you'll see my skin crawl. You'll see me screaming, not in anger. You'll just see me screaming. It's just bad. It's just bad. I hate gifts. And I hate compliments. Compliments are a form of flattery. Flattery is a way to kiss somebody's butt. You ain't got to kiss my butt. Too real, I'm too raw for that. You ain't got to kiss my butt. I just speak truth, so I don't give flattery out. And I don't expect to get flattery back. Just tell me the truth. Just be honest. Just be raw with me. That's all I expect. Because that's all you're going to get from me. If I tell you you're pretty, it's not because it's a compliment. It's because it's true. which also means you ain't got to tell me thank you. You don't say thank you for, somebody saying, it's a sunny day outside. Oh, thank you, it's a sunny day. Nobody says that. It's just a true statement. It's a sunny day. So if I say you pretty or I say you did a good job or whatever, it's not a compliment. It's just a truth. I despise receiving compliments because 99.9% of the people who do it trying to flatter me. And their flattery is a way to kiss my butt because eventually they want something. And I know somebody's going to say, no, it's not everybody. Track record is proven. I have a proven track record of this. So just tell the truth. That's all.
I'd like to add an addendum onto that before we go to this next break. If you call Pastor Jesse to your event, your ministry, whatever you're having, to minister the word of God, he is working. Those are not gifts. As the administrator of High Praise Ministry, knowing that how much work has to go into this and how much sacrifice has to go behind him coming to deliver this word from God, I'm going to need you to pay your offering. That is the Falonda, administrator of High Praise Ministries, First Lady, addendum to that statement. It is not about it being a gift. It is about the labor. The man has labored over the word. He is worthy of the hire. And yes, you should compensate him thus accordingly. And this has been a High Praise Ministries disclaimer.
I knew my wife was going to say some stuff like that.
That was an interesting question. I guess before we go to this next break, and I probably should be wrapping this up because we're probably well over time now.
I don't have no time on my podcast.
Taking off of something Falonda mentioned, with more men, you could say, skewing a bit more feminine, what is your advice to help men embrace masculinity while managing the current climate and relationship between men and women?
So let me take a look at that. I need to actually look at that question so I can.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So I can make a answers better. I need to be able to read this
one.
one.
We were talking about something I referenced when you interviewed me.
Oh no, I'm sure of it, but I'm trying to see. Okay, so here's how you help men embrace masculinity. You ain't got to do it. I'll take care of that in a second. Here's how you help men embrace masculinity. You help them embrace masculinity by, first of all, help them understand being a man is not a bad thing. I have tremendous issues with this generation. I'm going to try to be short with this because I am furious at how this generation has dealt with men. It's been a build over time, but it is more pervasive now than ever before. Being a man is now a bad thing. And we have to teach men being a man is not a bad thing. It is the gift that God has given to you. He's given women the gift of being a woman and men the gift of being a man. It is not toxic masculinity, which is a horrendous, irritating phrase that people have conjured up to stop a man from being a man. There is a thing where your masculinity is out of control, your machismo, your macho is out of control. Absolutely, I get that. You should not make a woman feel uncomfortable when she's walking down the street or in the club or at work or whatever. I get that. Not saying that. But at the same time, me being a man, me wanting to provide for my family, me wanting to open the doors, me wanting to do those sorts of things, me wanting to pay when we go out to eat, me wanting to take the lead on some things I'm supposed to take the lead on. That is not toxic masculinity. That's manhood. This thing is ingratiated in our DNA from birth. And what happens is it gets beat out of us, taught out of us and beat out of us till we no longer know what manhood is. And we have a whole lot of it. Some folk gonna be real mad at me for this. We have a whole lot of feminized men walking around. And I'm not talking homosexuals. I'm talking feminized men. Men who have no idea what it means to be a man. I'm not talking about your sexual preference. I'm not even talking about how you want to dress or how you want to address yourself. That's a whole other topic for a whole other day. I'm talking about simply the principles of manhood, things that are in your DNA to want to do that have been beaten out of our society of real men. Because when you are a real man, people begin to say you're irritating. People begin to say you're bossy. People begin to say all kinds of negative things about you to try to get you to change. I get it all the time. All the time. You're just so insensitive. No, I'm really not. There's just some things in me that cause me to look at a thing logically rather than emotionally. That's a manhood thing. And I'm not saying women are not logical. Please don't get that, because my wife is a very, very logical person.
Very logical.
But the reality is, as logical as my wife is, she is nowhere near more logical than I am. It's in my DNA. This is who I am, but not just me. This is who God's created man to be. So I would say that in order to help men embrace masculinity, we have to begin to first, before we can teach it right, we have to teach them it's not a bad thing. You can't correct the wrong of it until you teach that overall it's not wrong. It's like racism. Racist white people don't stop being racist white people because you teach them about black folks or you teach them about another race. They have to encounter that other race, and then through that encounter are then taught this other race isn't bad. And it starts gradually. They'll get around a black person who's cool and they'll be like, oh, you're one of the good ones. And then it grows from you're one of the good ones to, oh, well, I guess all black folk ain't bad, to, oh, well, just some idiots. They just happen to be black. It grows from that. So in order to have men embrace masculinity, we've got to stop talking about manhood like it's a bad thing. Like being the head of your house is a bad thing. Like being a leader is a bad thing. Like those things that are in you. And here's the thing. All men ain't made to be leaders. Not whole leaders. A wise leader understands their faults or their flaws, and they bring somebody around them who is strong in the area they're weak in. That's what a helpmeet is somebody who is strong in the areas that you're weak in. That way they can be strong when you're weak, and that way the collective is strong. There's nothing wrong with that. But I have to have some areas I'm strong in. And at the end of the day, I'm supposed to be the head. It's not my order. If we are Christian believers, forget all the rest of the world. I can't talk to the rest of the world about this because this ain't for them. But if we are Christian believers, the man is supposed to be the head of the house. And in order for that to happen, we have to stop teaching manhood is a bad thing. We have to stop allowing the world to dictate to us what masculinity and manhood is about. Then we can then begin to teach it correctly according to the Word of God. And the kicker is, once the church starts doing it right, the world will fall in line. It's always been that way. The world follows the lead of the church. When we get our house in order, when we get our men in order, when we get men in church to get them in order, then we can begin making that type of impact that the question is talking about. But overall, the starting ground, stop talking about masculinity like it's a bad thing. Get rid of this term of toxic masculinity and teach it, get it right first. Then begin to teach the stuff that's right so that we know what to do and what not to do. When you do that, to me, that's when you can begin to embrace masculinity correctly. To answer the question correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you answered the question. I think that we can no longer, as women, sit back and keep complaining about ain't no good men, and he ain't doing this, or it's not okay for him to say that he's babysitting his kids. We don't allow y'all to take a role in a position. And I speak from experience because I was one of those women. I don't need a man. I was one of those women. I don't need a man. And I don't think that it's that I need a man, but I can appreciate the benefits of being in this relationship with you.
Aww.
I can. I no longer. I think the one thing that I asked you for, before we got married, is that if you're going to be the leader, that you take the weight off of me. It's tiring. Like, if we be women and we be real honest, look, just because we can do it, it's like those mesh spandex 2-piece sets I've been seeing. And they come in plus size, and I am not fat shaming anybody because I am beautiful, big, and plus size. And you will not see Falonda Jones in a pair of mesh biking shorts and see-through shirt. Just because they make it in my size don't mean that you need to be walking around see-through.
I can't see you in a see-through shirt.
You my husband, that's totally different.
Oh, okay. I
was talking about the rest of the world.
Oh, just making sure.
For those who may have been disgusted by my picture, if you saw my Instagram, oh my God, the first lady, her boobs. Yes.
Beautiful.
I
Succulent.
am
Luscious.
an I, sometimes a J. These things are
Soft.
not small. You offended? It's your problem.
Fit great in my hands.
Shut up. It's too much real talk. But I can holistically say that if we be really honest with ourselves as women, it's just because you can't do it don't mean that you want to do it or that you need to do it. Like, we supposed to fit together. Like, as men and women, God intended it to be this way, so that one person wouldn't have to bear all of the weight. And men shouldn't have to bear all the weight in a relationship. Yeah, just because he can and he is the leader doesn't mean that he has to bear all of the weight, because you should be his backbone. You should have his back. And I hope I don't do you like I try. I know I let you down. I know. Like, if we could be being real. Because I don't, sometimes I just don't feel like doing it. I just don't feel like doing it, like, especially when it comes to ministry sometimes. I be looking at people like, and why are you talking to them? And I ain't single nobody else, so calm down. Because you'll know when I'm done with you. If I have to address anything, you taking up too much of my husband's time with frivolous stuff, you will know it. And that will be the last time that I have to correct you about it. Anyway. We supposed to balance each other out with, like, it's like we said before when we were planning our wedding, we should be yin and yang for each other. Mm-hmm. We don't have to be the same. We shouldn't be the same. I think if me and you were the same, one of us would have killed each other by now. I think it's good that we balance each other out, that we be different, but we be complementary to each other. My street unsaved coming into this with your literally popping out the womb on the altar self, that we balance each other out. And I think that's how we should be, like, to one another in our relationships with men and women. And if you're not experiencing that, then you should start really talking and sitting down and having a conversation with your significant other about that. Because down the line, I don't think you make it the long haul without that. Like, I bet if we talk to some married couples, 40, 50, 60 years of marriage, that there had to be a distribution of the power. Mm-hmm. And that they had to complement each other, that it couldn't be just one person doing it the whole time. Or they'd be a whole bunch of more black widows out here, male and female. Because we've seen it, the Peterson case. We've seen it where poor wives who came up missing because men's tired. Not to say it was her fault. Oh my God, people gonna think I'm really insensitive. Not to say it was her fault. You know what? Just go ahead and send it into my inbox and watch me not read it. I will leave you on unread. But we're going to take a little break, come back with our final segment, our Real Talk Banter, and we'll see you in a moment.
Are you tired of church as usual? Are you looking for something different? Do you need a real, relevant word that's impactful and will reach you right where you're at? Then High Praise Ministries is the ministry for you. Come fellowship with us every Saturday at 1 p.m. here at 3466 Holcomb Bridge Road in Norcross, Florida. Here at High Praise Ministries, we believe in bringing forth a real, raw, relevant word to reach you wherever you're at, no matter what you're going through. No judgment, no fuss. We'll have you in and out in an hour and a half of power-packed word and worship. So come, fellowship with us. Come see what the difference is all about. High Praise Ministries Next Level Service. We're the real raw church of purpose, and we are powered for your soul.
And we're back. Now it's time for our final segment. Real talk, real talk, real talk, banter.
This is what I deal with every day, y'all. Y'all thought I was joking when I said this chick is goofy. And I love it.
They didn't
but this
ask
is what
the
you
question. They didn't get a response. All right?
This the goofy I was talking about. Y'all hear me say it every so often. That's what I'm talking about right there. Y'all heard her jingle. That's her. I told y'all. I ain't tell her to do that. That's her.
All right. Tonight we're going to do a special edition of the banter, and we're going to feature Jesse's top 5.
Ooh, this is going to be interesting.
All right. So, Jesse gets the chance to put together his own king or queens of comedy who is invited to your stage. Top 5 dead of alive comedians.
Top 5. Okay. In no particular order, because I don't feel like trying to put it in an order at the moment. We're going to go with Dave Chappelle. We're going to go with Kevin Hart. We're going to go with Chris Rock. I need a 4. I already know who my last one is. I just don't. And he's one of my all-time favorites. But I'm trying to bridge the gap. It's not going to be Eddie. It's not Rich. That 4 spot is always hard. It's always revolving. Like, so there's my number 1 who's yet to come. Then there's Chris Rock. Then there's Dave Chappelle. Kevin Hart has kind of nudged himself there, but that 5th spot right there, it's always a ever revolving. Man, because I haven't been excited about a comic in a while. I'm trying to think of who still excites me or who did like really, really excite me. Like, man, can't really think of anybody that I would come running to go see. All like that, like really run. Like I got comics I listen to and I like, but like run to go see.
Somebody's got to be opening act.
But that's the question. Who was going to be worthy enough to be that opening act? Like, okay. So who I got? I'm going through my mental Rolodex of comics and like who I know was going to set this thing off right, hit that energy. God almighty. Yeah, this was a hard one because I'm you know how I'm about comedy. Like I'm a different breed when it comes to comedy. Like, okay, so unconventional number 5, Sinbad.
Interesting.
And my number 1, one of my favorites of all time. He is to me the Michael Jordan of comedy. Deserves his own little.
So this
section.
person is headlining your Kings of Comedy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Christians ain't gonna like it. George Carlin.
Wow.
George Carlin is
the atheist George Carlin?
George Carlin is absolutely hysterical. Not only is he hysterical, he's very informative. And much like your boy, he is a word person. He is hard on words. You got to know meanings of words, and he does not use his words frivolously. Man, this dude, he evolved from his early clean cut, I'm just a stand-up comic and I'm gonna do comedy kind of person, to then the person who became famous for the 7 words you can't say on television. And then he evolved from that to being the grumpy old man who was right. Like, go back challenge some people, go back and listen to old George Carlin HBO specials of stuff he did and stuff he said. And you'll find the stuff he was talking about will happen, did happen.
Almost prophetic, if you will.
This dude
like the 5 words you can't say on TV that you can now say on TV.
Just do. I'm telling you, George. People don't understand. George is true. Man, I still listen to George's stuff. Like George is that comic who I can hear a set of his 200 times and I'll still laugh. George is that dude. Love George. Absolutely. George Carlin #1. Headliner all the time.
That is awesome. And it was all, multicultural, multiracial, multi-economic.
I'm sorry, females.
Good on you.
None of y'all, there's no female comic that's that good. Sorry. I love y'all. I love a lot of female comics. Wanda Sykes, love her. Ali Wong, love her. A lot of good female comics. None worthy of my top 5. Sorry. I know somebody's going to say, ain't no women in there because y'all ain't funny enough to get in the top 5. Find me a female that is funnier than Sinbad, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, or Kevin Hart, and we might have a discussion. But you ain't going to find one right now. So... And I love the greats, and I study comedy. Love the greats. There's nobody alive funnier than George Carlin, so we can just toss that out the window. But you ain't gonna find a female that's funnier than those 4. Now there's some females who make it in my top 10, not top 5.
Okay.
Sorry.
Since I got time, I'm gonna throw one more top 5, and I said 2, but I want to make this 3.
I mean, do whatever we want. It's my podcast. We do whatever we want.
Thinking about your comedians, top 5 music artists or group of all time, your concert, from your opening act to your headliner,
All genres?
in all genres. We not gonna be picky. No, this ain't gonna be all gospel.
Oh, it sure ain't. I can only think of right now 1, maybe 2 gospel acts who even have a chance of getting in. Boyz II Men is definitely in there.
Okay.
I don't care how y'all feel about it. Go back to my old part. I think it's the 2nd episode I did for this podcast. Feel how you feel. Get ready to feel how you feel. Michael Jackson's getting in there.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Michael Jackson might just headline. Like real talk. Like yeah. I want all of Mike's stuff too. I want him to go ahead and bring up his brothers and then kick them off stage like he did Motown 25. Yeah, I want Mike.
That's 2.
See, I'm battling for this next spot that I'm thinking of. I'm battling between Luther and Alicia off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is that I love Luther as a crooner, but his up-tempo stuff sucks.
Gotcha.
I love Alicia's old stuff.
But her new stuff sucks.
It sucks, and she don't have enough of a catalog. So it's like, no. I know who I gotta have in this concert just because, and I don't even like all of her stuff, but I gotta have her in here just because she's one of my favorites of all time. Patti LaBelle gotta be in this concert. Oh my God. Patti! Love Patti. She got to be. Patti LaBelle is one of the greatest to ever do it. I don't care how you feel. She one of the greatest to ever do it. After Patti, my 2 closers. Well, so here go my board. Boyz II Men is gonna open.
Okay.
Followed by Patti.
Okay.
Mike is gonna be in the middle.
Mike is not gonna be your closing act.
I would like Mike to be my closing act, but it's not gonna be for a specific reason. So
Okay.
Mike will be right in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Coming behind Mike is gonna be Kurt Franklin. He's a good enough transition for what I want.
Okay.
He'll be able to keep it secular enough and then give me a nice little transition right in, and the brother's gonna minister. In a concert, Kirk is going Ministries. We're gonna put Kirk in there. And to close out my show every night, cause she gonna give it to you. She gonna give you everything she got. Has been doing it longer than Tamala. I love Tamala. It's gonna be Yolanda. Yolanda Adams got to get in there. Anybody who know me know Yolanda got to get. If you know me, you knew Mike had to get in there, and you knew Yolanda had to get in there. But here's the caveat: I need old school Yolanda. I don't need the radio Yolanda. I love Yolanda Adams, period. But I don't need the radio Yolanda. I need the Yolanda from her live in DC concert and them. I need that Yolanda. I need that Yolanda who's gonna go on the stage and shut the house down with worship. I need the Yolanda Adams that did a tour with Kurt Franklin and Donnie McClurkin, who almost made it in my list. I need that Yolanda, because I'm closing this night. I'm starting off hot, but I'm closing this night out with worship. We got the worship.
All right. Would she also be your hall pass? I'm sorry, bonus question.
I don't need no hall pass.
Oh, I'm enough.
That too, but I'm not that dude who needs a hall pass like that. I'm for what? Like, small understand Negroes trying to do threesomes or whatnot. Look, place with one is enough. It's hard enough. Let's deal with that. Let me concentrate on this one enough. No. And let's be honest, Yolanda's like almost 60 years old. I can't know. I'm messing around, break her hip. I love Yolanda. I can't do that.
No, she with Titus O'Neil now. I mean, not to say that they're doing anything because she's a Christian.
Titus O'Neil can't walk. Have you seen Titus O'Neil try to run?
Secular relationship.
Have you seen Titus O'Neil in the greatest Royal Rumble ever in Saudi Arabia tried to run down the ramp, slipped and fell, slid halfway under the ramp?
Oh no!
Titus World Slide. Yeah, so no, he ain't breaking nobody's hip right now. He trying to keep his own hip in place.
Oh no! Oh wow! I guess. And now we're gonna conclude tonight with one of my Food Network's favorite shows, Best Thing You Ever Ate. And now you're going to tell me your top 5 foods and who makes them. Best thing you ever ate.
I don't know if I ever had I don't know if I have a best thing I ever ate. It's gonna be interesting. So things that stand out are Mother Sly's sweet potato pie. Miss Mama Sly. Mama Sly was wonderful. Church mother. Baked dog meat out of sweet potato pie. She probably the reason my dad is sick now. All the good food she's feeding him, fattening him up. I'm just gonna be honest. But that sweet potato pie was something else. No, Mother Sly, she had some man. She ain't put her foot in it. She put the anointed oil in that bad boy. That's what she did. She prayed over her pie. She ain't need her nasty feet in it. She just prayed over it. It was Jesus. Your mac and cheese. Love your mac and cheese, especially the new way you make it. Probably have to put your strawberry cheesecake in there.
Suck it, Cheesecake Factory. Sorry.
Cheesecake Factory's cheesecake sucks. That's right, I said it. Is that 4?
That's
4?
3.
It's 3? Mm-hmm. Well, I know one that's going, but I'm saving that for last. Once again, I need that 5th slot. Who got that 5th slot? Because I'm real picky about who's and what's I eat. My steak. I can cook the heck out of a steak when I want to. I like my steak. My steak is delicious. I'll go with my steak. Mm-hmm. And number 1 slot all time, nothing surpassing it. My mama's lasagna. My mama's lasagna is heaven. I don't know what she do to it. She says she don't do nothing special to it. It's the best thing my mama makes. I'll punch you in the face over my mama's lasagna. Like, my mama's lasagna is the truth. And I love it that Falonda and Ashley don't really like my mama's lasagna all like that, because she don't cook it like they cook like she cook it. So when my mom makes lasagna, I get to eat it all because they don't really like it. And my mom will send us home with a big pan of it. so I can eat the mess out of it. Love her lasagna. Her lasagna, all-time greatest thing I've ever eaten because she cooks the mess out of it. Cooks the mess out of that lasagna. It's her best thing. Yeah, hands down.
I'm a little surprised.
Why is that?
Because our anniversary spot, which became our anniversary spot, because we had Cracker Barrel for our wedding reception. Will you get over that? J. Alexander's deviled eggs?
Oh, they're good, but they're not better than my mama's lasagna.
Wow.
They ain't better than my steak. They ain't better than your mac and cheese, your sweet potato pie, your strawberry shortcake, your strawberry cheesecake. And it sure ain't better than Mama Sly's sweet potato pie. Like, Mama Sly's sweet potato pie takes number 2. Hers number 2 spot. And it's number 2 spot also based off nostalgia because I'll never get it again because Mama Sly's dead. And I love Mama Sly. I miss Mama Sly. And she ain't passed, that I know of, she ain't passed her recipe on to nobody. So, it ain't better than my mama's lasagna. It ain't better than her sweet potato pie. It ain't better than your strawberry cheesecake. It ain't better than your mac and cheese. I think I make a better steak than that deviled egg. So it gets a nice honorable mention. Roundhouse Burger gets honorable mention. Zen Burger down here gets honorable mention. But cracking top 5? No. Top 5 is reserved for homemade stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't need this mass produced stuff. I need the homemade stuff. Yeah.
Well, I guess I want to thank you all for listening. Thank you for having me as your host tonight, your guest host. Hey, look, so I'm going to open this up and I'm going to offer this out there. If you like this podcast and you'd like to hear more from me, then start to begin to put some questions. Go to the Facebook page, inbox the questions, put the questions on.
Post the question. You don't have to inbox it.
Oh, if you don't have to inbox it, post questions online, post topics you want to hear me talk about. I got a lot to say, but only if you ask me questions. Other than that, it ain't none of your business. So if you want to hear from me more, start to communicate with me more. We'd love to hear more from y'all. We'd like to have some of you as guests. We may be able to do an over the phone interview with you guys, or an in-person interview. If you come down here and stay in a hotel, because Jesse's not gonna let you stay in our guest bedroom.
You can't stay in my house. I like you. I don't like you that much.
And now turning the show back over to our creator, Real Talk Jesse.
Real Talk Jesse, that's what the name, Real Talk Jesse. This has been fun. It's been interesting. Thank you all for submitting your questions. I appreciate it. Like my wife said, keep this energy going. Submit some more topics that you would like to hear talked about. We may talk about them. We may not. I'm the one who picks the topics. If I don't think it can last, it ain't going to be a segment. If I think it will, it will. But you won't know until you submit it. Some of your topics, if you submit it right, we may just have an online discussion about it and see how that works as well. And if it breathes out into the podcast, that'll work as well. Continue to submit questions periodically. We're gonna do an ask a queen and ask a pastor. We'll do those. That way you can get some questions answered, because I know that some of y'all love hearing from her. Y'all like hearing from me, and I like that. I appreciate that. Please do me a favor. Continue to share this podcast. If you can hear me over my wife deciding to eat ice in the middle of our clothes.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Continue to share our podcast, please, ma'am, please, sir. Share it on your Facebook, share it on your Instagram, share it on your Twitter, whatever you got to do. Share this podcast. Let's get the word out there. Let's get our listenership up. That way we can get some more money to come in. That way we can do some more greater things with this podcast. Speaking of doing greater things with this podcast, please become what I like to call a valued listening sponsor. If you've downloaded the Anchor app, you can see what the valued listening sponsor is. It basically allows you to submit some money to the podcast once a month. Very small increments. One is like $9. One is 99 cents. One is $4, and one is $9. Something like that. Those are the 3 tiers that they have. Once a month, we ever so grateful. If you become a valued listening sponsor, yes, ma'am.
I'll tell you what, if you become a valued listening sponsor, and you decide you really committed towards this, and you've heard all about my wonderful baking prowess, I may even bake you something good and send it to you.
Well, look at that. Maybe this may be the start of her business finally getting off the ground. Thank you, Jesus. I like that. Please become a value listening sponsor. I promise you it is definitely worth it, especially as we continue with this podcast. We're going to do some other things, some extra things that will only be for our value listening sponsors. Also, please make sure you tune in to Next Level Service, High Praise Ministries Next Level Service, every Saturday at 1 p.m. If you're in the Atlanta area, please make your way out. We would love to see your smiling face. Get angry as I preach, because you probably will, because I'm delivering the truth. Just going to be honest with you.
I got a shoulder for you to cry on. Don't even worry about it. I got you. I come prepared. I got Kleenexes. I got a good shoulder. Anybody will tell you my hugs are great. I got you.
3446. I believe that's right. Either 3446 or 3466. One of the two. 3446 or 3466. Peachtree. Holcomb Bridge Road.
Thank you.
Jesus. 3466 Holcomb Bridge Road in Norcross, Georgia. I'm still learning the address. We just got there a couple of weeks ago. Norcross, Georgia, every Saturday at 1 p.m. Or feel free to view us on our live streaming broadcast on the High Praise Ministries Facebook page. And I say each and every week, I'm trying to fine tune this nice little tag that I do. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, no matter what happens in your life, do yourself one favor. Always keep it real. It's a Real Talk podcast. Thanks for listening.
This is Real Talk. Real Talk Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk. Real Talk. This is Real Talk. Real Talk Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk.